All right. Well, we'll give like just a couple more seconds and we'll get going. As we get going, though, if you don't already have it, one thing you do want to have for the workshop today is your journal or a pen and a piece of paper or something to write in. You can even do it. You can even do it on the computer, but it's much better to have something that you can physically write with. But if you want to just do it on the computer or your phone in the notes section, that's okay as well. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get going. Chad, you can admit anyone else if they trickle in, but let's go ahead and get going what we've got. All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy to have you here in the Aligned Habits workshop. As I mentioned, we're going to do some thinking here, as well as some planning and goal setting and working on our habits. So I'm glad you joined us because you are in the right place. Uh, and I want you to go ahead. We're just going to start with a prompt, and then we're going to get a little bit grounded, and then we're going to review what we're going to cover in this course. But for right now, just take a moment and journal. You can even write it in the chat as you just did with your location, but just take just a second to think, what's one habit that you wish you could stick to that would change your life? What's something you either always wanted to do or something that if you just think, if I could do this regularly, I would be more of who I'm meant to be. So just take a moment to go ahead, journal that. You can type it in the chat as well. And just contemplate what's one habit you wish you could stick to that if you did and did regularly could change your life. And just give you a couple seconds to entertain that or journal that. Yeah. Yeah, I hear that, Chad. Getting back to people with better timing. There are only so many hours in the day. It's like we put them off. It's like we got to carve out that time to get back to folks. And anyone else? And also, I'll cover in just a moment. You can put it back in the chat. I mean, one thing I don't know that this is necessarily life changing, but uh, I do want to stick to my routines and habits as much as possible. And one of those that I don't regularly get to is, exercise or yoga that I'm pretty good about and I stay really active, but that's one. Anyone else want to share what's one habit you wish you could stick to that would change your life? All right, we're going to go ahead and get going here. And I just want you to take a moment and be fully present. People are continuing to trickle in, but if you're just joining us, perfect, Marianne. Great response for being present because we're going to do that right now. One way to get present and to be fully here in this workshop is to get grounded. So I want you to take just a minute. We're only going to do this for a couple minutes, and that is just to be fully present. Our lives, our modern digital lives, are so hectic and so active. Take just a moment to stop answering texts and emails and answering people on social media and DMs and checking Instagram and just be fully here for a minute. So, if you can, just close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that, that's okay too. You can just drop your gaze down low, just let your eyelids hang heavy, and just take a deep breath in, and then hold that at the top. So we're gonna take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, and then sigh it out. We're gonna do two more of those just to get grounded here and take a few moments to be fully present. So just take a deep breath in, hold it at the top, and sigh it out. And one more of those. Deep breath in, deeper little sips of air all the way down to your stomach, and hold it and sigh it out. All right, now with continuing to have your eyes closed or just your gaze drop down low, if that's more comfortable for you, just take 1 minute to just listen to your breath. Just be fully present with your breath. Feel the air coming in and going out through your nose. If you can, just breathe through your nose, not through your mouth, but just take 1 minute of breathing and just focusing on your breath. Feel the air coming in and going out, coming in and going out, and just focus on that breath for 1 minute. As you're focusing on your breath, you may have some thoughts come in. Just let them pass, just like clouds going by. Just observe that the thoughts are popping into your mind, but don't stick with them. Just focus on the breath. Focus all your mind's attention on the air coming in and going out. You might even feel the air, at the tip of your nose or that little space between your mouth and your nose. I have a mustache, so I don't feel that as much, but you feel the air coming in and out of your nose. Just for about 10 more seconds, be fully present, focusing on your breath. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're a little bit more present now and ready to set your habits and do things that can actually substantially transform your life. So, really excited to be bringing the Aligned Habits Workshop to you. We've been doing this now for a little while. And it's been really productive for those that have joined us. So, I'm glad you're joining us for this now. And after we've gotten grounded here, I want to tell you what we're going to cover. And in this course, we're going to cover why most goals fail. And we're going to dig deep into it. You're going to hear why goals fail. Then we're going to talk about how to set the right goals, goals that are aligned with your true self and who you're meant to be. And then we're going to talk about how you then build supportive habits that are going to help you hit those goals and how to stay on track. And, even when life knocks you off or you get out of your routine, and you're going to hear from me today, I am way off my routine. My wife ruptured her Achilles tendon and had surgery 2 weeks ago. Tomorrow will be 2 weeks, and is in a cast. We have 5 kids finished up school and starting day camps. So I'm running 2 businesses, and life has knocked me off my routines, but you know what? I stick back with them. I got up this morning, at the time I set and my habits, which I'm going to share all this with you in a little bit. Worked on editing my book that I'm working on with my editor on, and was focused. So your habits are what you have to come back to, even if life throws you off. So don't worry if things aren't perfect. There's a great saying, I may butcher it a little bit, but I'll try to get it right, that says, don't wait for the conditions to be right to begin. Beginning makes the conditions right. So we're going to go ahead and begin. And I just want to frame something for you. And that's about your habits. If you've struggled to stay consistent, it's not that you're falling short in life. You've just been trying to force a version of success that wasn't aligned with who you truly are. So today we're going to reset that, and we're going to rebuild from your true self. So I want to say, as we were typing in the chat, that's great, but I also want people to feel free to raise your hand, either physically or in the Zoom. Just press the little, raise hand button or react button that allows you to raise your hand that's on the bottom of the controls. Feel free to share. You can put things in the chat, but feel free to raise that hand and, come off camera. Happy to have people share, give feedback to each other, celebrate, everyone sharing. So happy to do that. Want to kick you off with a quote by Napoleon Hill, who said, "Desire is the starting point of all achievement. Not a hope, not a wish, but a keen pulsating desire, which transcends everything." So if you have a desire to make this year the best year ever and move past all that's held you back from living in complete happiness and bliss, then we're going to turn that desire into action. And we're going to give you a framework to do that. We're going to mold that burning desire for love, happiness, and success into real action that you can take today to live the life of your dreams. We're going to do this by aligning your dreams with your habits. And how do I know this works? Well, I know it works because I've been doing this over the last 7 years. And it took me a ton of trial and error of learning and how to get to a point where my big goals and my daily habits are aligned so I can live the life of my dreams every day. Like I said, with 5 kids ranging in ages from 3 to 16 and running 2 businesses and publishing books, I have to focus and be incredibly disciplined to ensure that all of us, all 7 members of our family, not just me, are living happily and being productive. So I decided 7 years ago that I wanted to figure out why I wasn't achieving what I had hoped to achieve, why I was looking in the mirror with disappointment and not seeing the joyful and successful person that I'd hoped to be. So I'm going to save you a ton of time and lots of years of learning and personal development to become who you're meant to be, to live the life of your dreams now. Does that sound good? All right. If so, come on, join me. And don't worry, this isn't hard. It just requires a system that works for you. So when I mentioned what we're going to cover, first I mentioned that we're going to talk about why most goals fail. And, we want to get past failure and reveal with clarity and alignment what matters more than willpower. So willpower does not work. Instead, it's having productive habits in a system. Speaking about goals failing, at the beginning of this year, we held an inspiring 8-week course, which we called Thrive in 25 to kick off the year right. And folks set big goals. So we were joined by entrepreneurs, professionals, and parents from around the world joining us. And one of this, and I quoted for them at the beginning of the course, which was January 1st, or I guess the course started January 3rd, first week of January. I quoted Chad Willardson, who's one of my heroes. He's the founder and CEO of Pacific Capital, a huge high net worth asset management company. But he's also written a bunch of great books, including one of them called Fit for Wealth. Chad shared a stat on LinkedIn on January 1. It says that less than 9% of adults achieve one New Year's goal that they set. But he also said 70% of adults report setting 0 goals. So that means that of the 30% of people who actually set one goal, only 9% of those achieve one New Year's goal, which means that only 2.7% of people achieve at least one goal they set each year. Again, that being 30% of the 9% who set one goal. I thought that was really concerning. I started getting to work on helping people to not be in that was it 97.3% of people who don't achieve one goal a year. We should all be able to achieve at least one goal a year. So we're on a mission to correct that. And some of the reasons that goals don't stick are first, unclear vision, external pressure, distractions. I think we have a slide for that. Unrealistic pace, meaning trying to get to a goal that is not necessarily lined with the time frame that it's actually achievable. And the last one is a lack of identity alignment and not aligned with your true self. And that's one of the biggest ones that is really a big problem for people, is not aligning with your true self. So you set some goal, but it's not aligned with who you're meant to be. So you end up not being all in on getting it because it doesn't feel right. So we're going to get into that too. I want to introduce a quote to you that I love, and we're going to put it up here. Is, we're kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. We're kept by our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to lesser goals. So there are all those folks right there who their goal is to get to the mountain, but they saw a sign that said, hey, great view over here. So they took a clear path to a lesser goal, as opposed to the folks who actually get to the top of the mountain. These people weren't distracted by the sign that says great view over here. They kept going up to the top of the mountain. We're always taking detours and getting off the highway to our dreams, not because it's too hard or too far, but because we're distracted by what's right in front of us. Does scrolling through news or social media on the phone, get you to your goals faster? No. It fills your brain with negative inputs of others, wastes your time, and takes your mind off of what matters. Does a drink, a joint, or a gummy get you awake early and excited about your goals and dreams? No. It numbs your emotions and your dreams, so you put them off for another day. It slows you down on your journey. And I know I've been there in the past. People stop work and they call it happy hour. You have a drink, you smoke a little weed, whatever it is to decompress, but those keep you from your dreams. And this drive is the drive of our life. So I want you to stop texting and driving. Stop drinking, driving. Stop getting high and driving. And I'm talking about driving your life, not your car. Our addictions to the phone, alcohol, drugs, and the negative news stem from us, needing to move past that, which feels that it's keeping us stuck, but yet that keeps us stuck. Those are the distractions that take our focus from what matters. The dependence takes us from what matters most, from our dreams and from our loved ones. So focus when you drive your life so you don't run off the road. If you keep driving like this, you're going to hurt yourself and others. And I mean driving your life, not your car. Blaise Pascal, the famous French inventor and mathematician, said, "Distraction is the only thing that consoles us from our miseries, and yet it is itself the greatest of our miseries." We're going to work on eliminating distractions to help us focus on getting our big goals and implementing the habits that will get us there. We all have certain vices and bad habits that we want to overcome. Most of these habits, though, do turn into dependence and addiction, or just repetitive bad habits that we don't want to continue. So we may not even recognize the dependence as a problem, like the phone for so many of us today, or checking email or texting, but it still takes us from our natural state. And when we're taken from our natural state, we don't operate at our best. And when you do operate at your best, you're putting good food and drinks into your body and feeding your mind positive content. When we're not operating at our best, we numb ourselves with junk food, alcohol, drugs, mindless entertainment, negative news, and phone scrolling. So to get into a peak state and to live the life of your dreams, first, we want to address the dependence. So even if you're not distracted by all the modern distractions in life, many of us are kept from our real goals by that clear path to lesser goals. A small project or a smaller goal comes up that's easily achievable. So we jump into it, leaving our big goals and dreams behind. Or someone knocks on your door and says, "Hey, can you help me with this one thing?" That small hit of accomplishment makes us feel that we are achieving something, but it's delayed the real goal and keeps you further from your true self. And you know that inside, and your inner voice calls to you. And you may experience some success, but it's not real success that you know your true self requires of you. Misaligned goals create confusion and burnout. And when you lack clarity, your nervous system, your brain, can't trust the direction that you're going. That's why so many seemingly successful people are happy. I mean, I was there, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but my career as a lawyer and an entrepreneur, I seemed successful, but yet I wasn't happy because my goals were not aligned with my true self. So people may be achieving professional work success, but they're just accomplishing small daily tasks that are doing a job. So inside they're unhappy because they're not aligning their daily habits with their big goals. And this creates confusion and leads to burnout. So your brain starts to feel like it can't trust the direction you take. And you go one way when you know you need to go another, when inside your heart, you know you're supposed to be doing something. Clarity brings confidence, and confidence is contagious. Now, another reason that goals fail, even if they are clear, is that the clear goal is not aligned with your true self. Gandhi said, "We shut our ears to that still small voice inside us." What he's saying is that when you listen, you know what to do. We need to listen to ourselves, and listening, truly listening to our inner voice propels us into our future with clarity. So if you listen to your inner voice, you're going to head into your future with clarity. And we're going to talk about how setting those big goals and the aligned habits bring that clarity. So we all have that small voice inside that clamors to us, wanting us to have an amazing life and nudges us to our personal and professional dreams and clamors for love and happiness. And I want you to give a megaphone to that small voice inside. This is your true self and higher power directing you where to go. Goals that are not aligned with your true self create confusion and burnout. And this leads to anxiety. And when you're clear on your goals and they're aligned with your true self, you can live the life of your dreams. So now that we've covered why goals fail, I want you to take a moment and pull out the journal. And we're just going to do this for maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I want you to think of a goal that you set in the past but didn't reach. And then what do you think got in the way? So just take a moment. We're going to take maybe 3 to 4 minutes and really think about it. Give yourself a minute to ponder this. I don't want to rush you, so take your time. But we'll come back on and you can share if you'd like in the chat or raise your hand and share it out loud. Happy to discuss it and give some feedback. So take a moment, think of a goal you set in the past but didn't reach, and what do you think really got in your way? All right, just take maybe another 30 seconds or so to think about that goal that you set in the past but didn't reach. All right. So if you're still working on this, by all means, keep going. But we're going to go ahead and come off here. And I personally can share, a goal that I had that didn't reach. It was a business goal a couple of years ago, and I'll share a little bit of this story later in the course. But we had started this company to take folks off grid using clean energy, and we thought it was a great business idea, and it still is. But the problem was we had set the goal. Too big. So meaning how far we could get, how quickly we could get there. Um, and also not aligned, like it wasn't aligned with my true self. And I'll talk some about that a little bit later. So I think it was lack of alignment, as well as the unrealistic pace hit those two. Marianne, I see you have fear there, and I guess Kissinger. not clear on the path to accomplish that goal, uncertainty. Yeah, maybe setting a big goal and then not sure how to get there, so it just never really happens. And today we're going to talk about really setting that path through, big goals first, and then, annual, quarterly, monthly goals to get there, and daily habits. So we're going to walk it back, Kissinger, to help you get there. Dawn, distraction and procrastination. Absolutely. I mean, I'm regularly distracted. I get it. And procrastination. That's why we got to just get going. That's why the daily habits we set that we'll talk about shortly will help you get there so you don't procrastinate. All right, Marianne's with Dawn. Okay, that's great. You guys are calling together. I'm so glad to have. I don't know that we've had people joining us who are like together at that point. So Marianne, Dawn, thanks for joining together. Uh, Erica, I want to be my own boss. I hear you, but I've never had an actual business that has made money. There's too much info out there, which is distracting. Yeah, I mean it's tough. But Erica, I guess at this point I never thought I'd call myself this, but I guess I'm a serial entrepreneur. I think I'm on my third or fourth business at this point. So yeah, certainly happy to help you with that. If you want to reach out, outside of here as well, I can give you some additional resources that help you in starting a business, as well as getting organized and strategic planning process that'll help you, start that business and stay focused. And you don't necessarily have to quit doing what you're doing now in order to run a successful business. It might be that you do it, a little bit at a time. Yeah, you're welcome, of course. All right. Anyone else want to share something, a big goal you set in the past, or just a goal you set in the past but didn't reach, and what you think really got in the way? And by all means, feel free to raise your hand and come off camera and share if you want, or share in the chat. All right. All right. So moving along, now that we've covered why goals fail, now we want to talk about actually creating aligned goals and starting to envision our future self, or, Erica, that business owner you want to be. And, we're going to talk about how we make that shift from externally imposed goals to deeply personal, soul-led vision. And, we want to build a true connection with our future self, or our true self, so that we can be who we're meant to be. So we're going to talk about setting expansive goals and ones that excite you, not shame you, that you feel like you're never going to reach there. And then we're going to align those goals with our identity to ensure that our habits are sustainable and energizing. So look, it's good to have good habits, but where are they getting you? Like a lot of people set New Year's resolutions, which are really sort of like habits, but you want them to be aligned with your dreams and your true self. So if that's the case, you need to know where you're headed to set habits that are going to get you somewhere, not just create good, productive habits. So you need to set goals, and you need to make them big, really big. So we want to start by going big. And where do you want to be in 10 years or 20 years? And I think there's the old saying about setting goals to make them smart, and I forget what exactly it's for. I think it's specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. I haven't said that in a while, so I'm lucky. Luckily, it came to me. The part that I don't like about that is the like realistic, and most people frame realistic on what they know today. But we don't know who we're going to be in 10 or 20 years. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but I want you to have big, big goals, seemingly impossible goals. And don't worry about where you are in life right now. It doesn't really matter if you're 30 or 50 or 70. My dad, who's 81, works 6 days a week as a radiologist at a children's hospital. At the famous, St. Jude Children's Hospital in Memphis is where he started. And now he's at another children's hospital. And this is his idea at 81, he'll be 82 in August, of cutting back after selling his radiology private practice a couple years ago. And another great story about, someone, where they are later in life, like people in their 40s, 50s, 30s even, are like, oh, it's too late for me. It's never too late. Founder of the global advisory firm Strategic Coach, Dan Sullivan, he set his 25-year plan at age 75. And he made plans to go even bigger than where he was in his very successful life, advising entrepreneurs around the world. And that's what excites him. And with that kind of drive, setting a 25-year plan at 75, he'll probably live to 100 to see it through, because there's no end to what you can achieve at any age and at any point. But you have to think bigger. With 5 kids and running a 15-year-old, I guess actually 16-year-old business now, almost 17, was it wise for me to start a new direction in life, over the last year or two, and become an author and an inspirational speaker and a leader for entrepreneurs and parents and professionals? I don't know. Like, was it a good idea? I don't know. But I'm excited by what I'm doing now. As you can tell, I love talking to you, and I love inspiring you folks to be able to achieve your goals the way that I have, by implementing the habits that I've been working on for years. And I'm loving every minute of it. And I can see clearly for the next 10 years and beyond, because I set those big long-term goals. And then I created a system to get me there. So what's your big, hairy, audacious goal? What seems outrageous to others, but in your heart is what you need to do? That's your North Star. That's the direction you need to head. Who do you want to be in 10 years? We're going to work backwards from 10 years out, down to 3, then to this year, then this quarter, then this month. And then the daily habits that bring those goals to life. They all link. Are you the same person that you were 10 years ago? Realistically, no. But we set goals and plans as though we will be ourselves, but just a little bit older. But it's not the case. You'll be a totally different person in 10 years. So if you ask people if they're the same person they were 10 years or 20 years ago, they say, no way, I'm a totally different person. I've grown so much. But yet when you set goals, a lot of people set goals imagining that they'll be like they are now, but just a little bit older. So we have the ability to look back and say, hey, I'm totally different. But when we look forward, we say, hey, I'm me today, but just a little bit older. There's a concept called prospection, which is the ability to mentally represent and evaluate possible futures. It's a fundamental psychological skill that includes planning, prediction, and imagining future scenarios. When we envision future scenarios, a lot of times, like I said, we limit ourselves to what we know now. Yet, there are no limits. Our goal in this workshop is to open our minds to think without limits. So I'm going to take you back a little bit before we go forward. And that's when I was 27 years old. And it's the end of my second year of law school. It's exam time. And I just been elected class president, editor-in-chief of Law Journal. And I was pulling all-nighters on the regular and working really hard. And I'm in the kitchen. I look down, the floor feels kind of warm. I look down on my foot. I didn't have shoes on, socks on. And I looked down and see maybe like the dog peed there, or maybe there was a pipe or something, hot water pipe I hadn't noticed before. And there was nothing there. And that night I go to bed and my leg starts twitching every couple minutes. And within 2 days, I lost the ability to lift my left foot, and I couldn't hold a pen or type with my right hand anymore. And my head is spinning, my body was deteriorating. I mean, I'm 27 and I don't know if I'm going to be paralyzed. I don't know if I'm going to die. And I'm relieved, however, like I said, my dad was a doctor. He told me I'm not going to die right now, but that this could get worse. So MRI showed that I had lesions on my brain and my spinal cord. This was the onset of multiple sclerosis. And when I overdid it over the next 3 years as a young lawyer, I had 2 subsequent MS flare-ups where I lost vision in each of my eyes due to lesions of my optic nerves. But our body is miraculous, though. When we care for it properly, it can heal itself. And although I have some residual nerve damage, like my right hand's still numb from 20 something years ago, and my left foot feels cold in the winter, I have some nerve damage. But thank God, I've now gone almost 18 years without another MS flare-up. But the lesson was simple, and I only learned it and realized it later in life. You have to listen to your inner voice when it tells you to slow down. But you also have to listen when it tells you to get up and run into your future. Now, I wasn't listening to that still small voice inside for years, and I was just running in circles. And in the summer of 2018, I decided after, working hard as a lawyer, an entrepreneur, and a parent that I was just miserable. I decided I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I decided to start working on and improving myself and start listening and growing again. And it dawned on me what during that period of time, during that 7-year journey, that I decided that I was meant to inspire people. I was meant to achieve more than I was achieving by just staying stuck on the hamster wheel. And so I started down this 7-year journey, which has been absolutely extraordinary and taken me to a place of deep personal alignment with my true self and my personal, professional, and spiritual growth. So once I saw what I was supposed to do to inspire people, it dawned on me. And that's why my true self is meant to do these things that I've been doing over the last couple of years. And that's what that still small voice inside has been telling me for decades. And that's why I saw sad eyes in the mirror for so many years when I would look in the mirror with disappointment, because living as a lawyer and then clean energy entrepreneur isn't living as my true self. I'm not going to make enough impact every day, but writing books and inspiring you is my true calling. So what we're here to work on today is, what is your true calling? From the podium or in a course like this, I get to use my voice to help others find their voice. And that's why I'm talking to you today, to inspire you to live the life of your dreams, to listen to your inner voice, and to set big goals. Are you listening to that still small voice inside you? What is it telling you? In the immortal words of Nelson Mandela, who lived fully through struggle and triumph, there is no passion in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you are capable of living. I want you to live the life of your dreams, which you can do today by living as your true self and by setting big goals with plans to achieve them. So how are you going to do this? 1, listen to your inner voice. 2, write down what you hear so you can set big goals. And 3, implement daily habits that help you live as your future self and achieve your goals. So as your feet hit the floor tomorrow morning, walk into the mirror, walk in the bathroom, look in the mirror, lock eyes with yourself, and say, I love you. And then go spread that light out into the world. The world needs your light to shine brightly now more than ever. The world needs you to be at your best, and we need you now. So as you awake with intention, put down the phone, stop scrolling, and just listen to that still small voice inside. What is it telling you? What do you need to do to live as your true self? You can't live the extraordinary life of your dreams by playing small, by just going through the motions. Setting big goals and daily habits is the beginning of a glorious life, your true life, the life you are meant to live, not the one that keeps you stuck. One of the most famous architects of the last century was a guy named Daniel Burnham, who's known for skyscrapers in New York and Chicago, or like the beautiful Union Station in Washington, D.C. But I always liked a quote of his that says, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood and will probably not themselves be realized. Make big plans, aim high, and hope and work." I love that quote. And so that's why we're here, to make big plans, to set big goals, and then create a clear path to achieve those goals, followed by habits that will make your future come true. So that's how you're going to thrive in 2025. Be bold and be specific. You see, big plans are actually easier to achieve because it limits the pathways to get there. Pathways thinking is a way of thinking that is much easier than traditional planning, which is why we're talking about big goals. So if you want to be the best in the world at something, there are only a few direct actions to get you there. I'll use an example. My son likes snowboarding. He only picked it up a couple years ago. But let's say that he decides that he wants to get better at snowboarding. He can go snowboarding a couple times during the winter. He can take some lessons to get better. He can even practice skateboarding in the summer for balance or something like that. But if he decides he wants to be in the Olympics and, snowboarding against Shaun White, Snow White, he wants to be a snowboarder and compete against the best in the world. There are only one or two paths that get him there. By being bold and specific, he's focused his decision and narrowed his pathways to get there. So if you just want to become better, there are a million ways to get there. If you want to be the best at something or achieve a big goal, there's only one or two ways to get you there. What I mean by that is there are only one or two elite training academies or coaches in the world that could get him to be an Olympic snowboarder. And he would have to stick to a strict practice regimen and be training as an Olympic athlete. By increasing the goal and limiting the scope, he can create a direct pathway to get to greater success. Be bold and be specific. Yeah, there's one, I love quote. We say this all the time. You're going to see it on the habit tracker we're going to share with you. But Jim Collins, who's wrote the book Good to Great, said, if you have more than three priorities, you have none. So we're going to work on saying no more than three priorities or three big goals. Everyone is so scattered trying to do everything well that we give everything only partial attention. So if you want to thrive in 25 and achieve big goals, you have to limit your focus and say no to a lot more. So I'm going to share my method for setting big goals and then aligning them with quarterly and monthly goals. And we can help you refine those goals and then set daily habits that'll make realizing those goals inevitable. So at the beginning of each year, I set my big goals for that year. But actually, those goals are based on my long-term vision for myself, which I've set and have written down. So we'll get into doing an exercise in a little bit that'll help you get there. But once I set my big goals for the year, I then list the quarterly goals that I can do in the next 90 days to get me closer to the annual goals. And I update that every quarter. So every 90 days, I'm updating what is going to get me to my annual goals. Then I list the monthly goals that help me achieve those quarterly goals. And I update those each month. So if you're getting my newsletter or you're on our list, you'll now get my monthly report, which I do, where I update my quarterly and monthly goals that are aligned with my annual goals. And it's true alignment. And it's how you bring your goals to life. And I post these on my desk, and there's one right here, right next to the screen. See if I can show it. There we go. This is my annual, quarterly, and monthly goals sheet. And I also have one in my bathroom in my office and one in my bathroom in my bedroom. So I see them, every morning or every time I walk in the restroom. And next, we're going to talk about making your daily habits align with these big goals. And remember, there are no more than three. We want no more than three big goals. And like I said, we'll make these available so that you can work with these. I think it's in the Tao Te Ching that you may have heard Taoism or people refer to the Tao. It says, in the pursuit of knowledge, every day something is added. But in the pursuit of the Tao, every day something is taken away. In pursuit of your goals, do not add more. Instead, take more away. Take more out of your life that keeps you from your big goals and from living the life of your dreams. Make your goals big and simple. Take away all the nonsense that wastes your day. Get rid of the distractions and focus in on your goals. Don't let people take you from your big goals. Find the pathway and then strip away all else. Get ready to climb higher than you ever have before. Your next summit is waiting because it's your time to thrive. So I'm going to take you through an exercise, which is how I set my big goals. And we're going to do that in just a second. Before I do that, though, I think we're going to help you with this, Marianne. You said, what if you don't know who your true self is anymore? And we're going to help you get to that. I think this exercise that we're going to do right now is going to help you with that. So I want you to take out your journal, but we're going to, sort of do a short little exercise here, talking about imagining your life 10 years from now. Fully alive, fully successful, peaceful, and happy. Sorry, it gives this little bubble every time I raise my hand for a couple of minutes. Anyway, so I want you to close your eyes for just a moment and imagine your life 10 years from now. I want you to envision, meditate for just a few minutes, close your eyes, or like I said, bring your gaze down low if closing your eyes is uncomfortable, and imagine on the other side of this Zoom with your eyes closed is yourself from 10 years from now, 10 years in the future. Uh, what do you notice about them? What are they wearing? How do they spend their time? How do they carry themselves? What wisdom do they share? So, uh, yes, absolutely, Scott. There will be a replay, and we will provide this to everyone via email. So you'll have a replay, you'll have the worksheets and the resources we provide as well. And we also do these weekly if you want to join us again, Scott. So I want you to just close your eyes for a moment and take 4 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes, and envision meeting yourself 10 years from now. And I've done this, and that's what I've based my visualization and my goals on. Imagine what that person does. What do they do? Like, how do they carry themselves? What are they wearing? That person, that you from 10 years from now, who is this person? So take a few minutes, just close your eyes. Breathe like I was saying a few minutes ago, just in through your nose and out through your nose. Just focus on your breath and imagine meeting yourself 10 years from now. Ask that person a question. Ask them a few questions. Ask them to share their wisdom with you. How do they seem? What have they learned that you don't know now? Take the next few minutes to do that. All right, let's start. Just take a few more seconds here. All right. So I think we're gonna go into the next exercise. And I guess let's skip that. You can come back to it. Next is a question, but we're going to skip to the journal prompt, uh, Chad. So there's something else you guys can do that I want you to do. You don't necessarily have to do it right now, but when you get a chance later, one other thing you should do is, then shorten that from 10 years to 3 years. And you might want to do this exercise. One thing I've done is I have a letter I wrote to myself from myself 10 years from now. So I did a long meditation, which you should do longer than just those 5 minutes, and really spend some time with your future self and see what wisdom they share with you. And then start basing your goals, your big long-term goals on that. So take a couple minutes and now I want you to write down what your future self showed you. And once you've done that, maybe what they were wearing, how they seemed, how they carried themselves, what's something they achieved. They may have told you about things that they've achieved or, how they live. And, what did your future self show you? And then from that, write 3 goals that align with your future self. What are 3 things you could do to that person has achieved that you want to achieve? So I think that probably works to help answering your question somewhat, Marianne, of, what if you don't know your true self anymore? This exercise gets you there, and you might want to write a letter from yourself to yourself. But for now, just take another, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And this is something you guys I encourage you to come back to after today's course. Um, so that you can do that. So take just a moment. What did your future self show you? And then what are 3 goals that align with your future self? All right. Let's take another few seconds here. And again, you can work on these exercises later. I really highly recommend that you do, and you take real time, meaning, meditate for 20 minutes to a half hour or longer, meet your future self, and then do these exercises, and start creating goals that are aligned with this true self that you've imagined, who you want to be. This is the person who is living the life of your dreams, who you truly want to be, and align your goals with your true self. Uh, so anyone want to share? Uh, Anyone want to share? I'm happy to share. Like I said, I did this exercise. I think right over here, I have a letter. I have that letter that I wrote to myself. Um, I guess it was last summer. I wrote it from myself in 2034, so 10 years from now, to myself now. Uh, and it was beautiful, imagining, that person had told me what, each of my kids were doing, from being teenagers to in their mid to late 20s, things, I did, my wife did, what we experienced, um, the success that we've had, the, loving, happy relationship that we have. And that person who I want to become, how they, I even, journaled later after a meditation session what that person wears and started, dressing like and being more like that, peaceful, happy, and productive person. And it's been absolutely transformative, which is why we want to share it with you today. Um, I then created three goals that align with that, which were, you know, being a best-selling author. I've now, almost finished my first book, meaning working with my editor, and I've started my second book, calling Lead with Spirit. And my first book is called Light in the Mirror, which you'll hear some allusions to today. We started the Thrive in 25 coaching course as, part of my Inspire. So I had Write, Inspire, and spiritual leadership, which I'm working on doing interviews in nature with global spiritual leaders. And then I had a goal related to, relationships with my kids and my wife, and I've been working on those and creating time for that. So, um, anyone else want to share what your future self showed you, or what are some goals that align with your future self? And again, feel free to share if you want to come off camera or raise your hand and share. That's great, or put them in the chat. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. You can keep working on these, and we can move on. Anyone want to share? All right. Well, yeah, Scott, this is my true self that I was passionate about in my youth, but somewhere along the way, I gave up that dream. I'm reading Scott's now, to make a living. Yeah, I mean, somewhere over the years, I lost myself and so desperately need to go back to who I really am. I have to go now, but I wanted to share that. Scott, thank you so much for sharing. I understand you have 1 o'clock. Thank you for taking a moment to do that. Um, Yeah, I know. It really, so many of us lose ourselves as we get into, later in life, and we forget that we're that same person we were when we were kids. And at any point, we can achieve those goals. And that's by working on ourselves. I'm not sure if I shared in this course, but I think Jim Rohn said, how do you put it? If you work at your job, you can have a career. If you work on yourself, you can have a fortune. Whatever that fortune is to you, happiness, personal development, wealth, relationships, stuff. You can have all that if you work on yourself. And that means setting these goals, setting their habits. And we got to get back to our true selves. I mean, um, we really get away from that. And I appreciate you sharing that, Scott, because I mean, that's where I was. I was working on making a living as, a lawyer and then entrepreneur, that I wasn't doing. I knew when I was a kid that I was supposed to inspire people, and I was supposed to use, my time and my words to help, heal other people's suffering. And I wasn't doing that. I was just working a job to make money and provide for my family. But you can do both. I mean, you can set those goals that help you to get to be that person inside you're meant to be. Um, let's see, Marianne, is there a written downloadable for journaling prompts? We don't have that. We have the habit tracker we'll share with you. We do have our high performers daily ritual checklist that we'll get to you. And we do have the goal setting sheet that we also get to everyone. But we don't have these journal prompts. Maybe that's something we can do, Chad. And I don't know if we'll be able to get it out with this one, but um, we will share the slides, which will of course have those journal prompts. So it's not necessarily where you would write them in, but we do have the slides from today that has these journal prompts in it. So I guess maybe that's what you were asking, Marianne. So we do have that. Yeah, so thank you, Sarah. Just looking over the comments a little bit. I resonate with the distinctions. What's in front and slows you down on the journey on the goal. Yeah, I mean the distractions take us away. I mean, as soon as we are distracted, we're not focused on our goals. And like some of those distractions feel like success. I mean, some of those distractions are actually achieving something. And sometimes those distractions make us feel shamed or make us feel not as good because we're spending time on the phone or spending time, drunk or high or spending time with people who bring us down and we're not just supposed to. Sometimes we've been even helping people doing things that feel good because we know we should be helping, but we're forgetting our own goals and taking care of ourselves. And remember, you can't take care of others if you don't care for yourself. So you got to really spend some time getting into your big goals and getting off the distractions. And what's right in front of us, the shiny objects of what's right there, does slow us down on our journey. So I appreciate that resonates, Sarah. Dawn, one of my big goals is to become a proofreader and editor. Do you need a proofreader for your books? First one free. Dawn, thank you so much for the offer. I'm working with an editor right now, but I would love to have you proofread my book, Light in the Mirror. I have a developmental editor, Melinda Cross, who's great. Happy to talk to you about that, Dawn. Assuming you have my email from the calendar invites for this, by all means, right now or after this is over, email me. Love to have a proofreader if that one's for free, and I can also connect you with some other folks in this space. And I'm also on the board of the National Speakers Association for the Philadelphia chapter, and a lot of folks there write books as well. So yeah, happy to connect with you on that. Thank you. Yeah, let's see. We're also sending out the slide deck afterwards. Yep. And someone left and came back. Thank you. You're welcome. What was the purpose of this session and how to contact you, discuss what you plan to do with coaching, et cetera. Yeah, so we'll talk about that at the end, Sarah. But the purpose of this session is to set big goals, implement daily habits. We're about to move from goals into setting habits, and we will provide the habitually inspired habit tracker for you. And also, feel free to get in touch with us about coaching. We will provide more information. You can always email me at inspire@benparvey.com or ben@benparvey.com, and Chad can put those email addresses in the chat. Yeah, Marianne, issue is health wise. You see yourself healthy. I didn't start my journey until earlier this year. So this is all new to me and still learning about myself. Yeah. So Marianne, I was there too. So, these are all concepts we know. We know we should be taking care of ourselves, meaning that we know internally. But yet, once we start on this path of awakening and truly developing ourselves, you can't unsee it. You can't go back. So once that you want to live the life of your dreams, that you want to be healthy, that you want to work on your personal development, that you want to have happy, loving relationships, that you want to be mindful or start, meditating or be in connection with your higher power, or God, or the universe, or whatever you define that as, you can't go back. So I'm so happy that you are starting your journey. I started my journey, like I said, over 7 years ago, and now it's my mission to share that with as many people as possible to help you on your journey. So again, Marianne, by all means, Chaz provide the emails there. Feel free to reach out, and happy to provide you the resources you need to be able to do that. So let's start getting into, I think, wanting to know what the purpose of the session is. We're going to start transitioning from setting big goals, which that's one purpose. The next purpose is building habits that reinforce who you are. So building the habits that reinforce who you are, who you're meant to be, your true self that you keep hearing me refer to. And that you can go this way. This can be a journey that gets you to where you want to be, that you can turn your vision into repeatable, grounded action. So, um, yeah, we're going to explain how aligned habits shape identity over time and how you implement that. So, when I began the regular practice of meditating and journaling 7 years ago, it felt difficult and a little awkward at first. Meaning I didn't quite know what to do. Being the beginning of that journey, I was worried my wife and kids might walk in on me meditating and think, like make fun of me for sitting there being in lotus position like the Buddha. But there's nothing better you can do for yourself. You shouldn't feel embarrassed or ashamed for taking a few minutes to close your eyes and go within and focus on your breath or envision who you're meant to be. That there's nothing more important or any better that you could do. So what was awkward started to feel natural, warm, and heartfelt and habitual. And now it's part of my daily life, meaning meditating, journaling, you know, eating well. And I lost over 40 pounds by tracking my habits using intermittent fasting. So we'll get into those habits a little bit more, but habits, which is why we're starting with habits to get to your goals, both good and bad habits are hard to break. And, once they've kicked in and you're doing them regularly, and look, I know I've had my bad habits over life, smoking in the past or using weed or staying up too late or procrastinating, like someone mentioned. But it's a lot easier to break bad habits when you have good habits and positive reinforcement to break them. So the Oracle of Omaha, Warren Buffett, who retired recently, said, chains of habit are too light to be felt. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. So in 2018, Chad, who's making all this possible today, started working with us at my old company, Blue Sky Power. And Chad's making this workshop possible today. So big ups to Chad for all he's doing. And Chad gave me this in the holidays in 2019, which is a habit roadmap. And I started using that. I guess it was a holiday gift in 2018 that Chad gave me, and it was just a simple daily checklist to set and track your desired habits. So, in the words of Aristotle, which is the quote hanging directly over my shoulder here, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. Uh, One of my favorite quotes, and that's why we're talking about habits being a big part of this. So as you set your big goals, keep your focus by creating positive habits and routines. You want to wake with intention each day by setting your daily big three priorities. So yeah, happy. We'll share that in just a second, Sarah. Um, Actually, I can just put it in the chat right now. Yeah, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. Uh, so you want to set your daily big three priorities the night before, which, yeah, there we go. Thanks, Chad. Which we're going to talk about more as we get a little bit later in the workshop in a few minutes. But this way, when your feet hit the floor, if you set the habit of setting your big three priorities the night before, as soon as your feet hit the floor, you know which way to go. It's important to get your bearings as you start your day with positive routines before you look at the phone. So do not look at the phone for the first hour of the day. I really encourage you, do not look at the phone for the first hour of the day. Connect with yourself before you connect with everyone else. Remember, excellence is a habit. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence is not an act, but a habit. So if you want to live an excellent life and the life of your dreams, work on the habits. That's what the purpose is today. So by retraining your brain to live a more positive, productive, and happy life, you're more easily able to achieve your goals. Even if you've done the same negative routine for decades, your brain can be reprogrammed through deliberate practice. So to train your brain to live the life of your dreams, the life you dream about and is in your thoughts, it takes deliberate practice to set new habits. That's one of the big points of this workshop, to take the actions described and create new neural pathways that become positive habits. So again, we are what we repeatedly do. So if you want to see and do things differently, then set new habits and do them repeatedly. It doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, you can retrain your brain for love, happiness, and success. Positive habits are the key to making your dreams and your goals real. To get into a routine of positive habits and start framing and building your strong house, it's worthwhile to track effective habits. And we're going to teach you how to do that. We're now getting into habits or practices that make it easy to transform into the person you're meant to be. The quote, "You can't improve what you don't measure," is often attributed to Peter Drucker, the famed management theorist in the 20th century. So we're going to measure and track that which you want to improve. Track your habits to make them come to life. Don't wait for your future to happen. You can start being that person that you had envisioned a few minutes ago, that person from 10 years ago or 10 years from now, who you're meant to be. And it helps to measure and track your progress towards becoming that person. That's the system that gets you there. Not just someone mentioned earlier, setting a goal and not getting there sort of due to lack of clarity. You have to design a life. You have to design the house and get the materials to build it. Your big long-term goals, your annual, quarterly, and monthly goals, which we talked about setting, are the designs for the house. The habits are the materials. And then each day you build the house with those materials, meaning you use your habits to build your goals. And so by the end of the year or by the end of an annual goal, your house is built. Your goals will be achieved. You won't be in that 93% of people who don't achieve at least one goal. And when you listen to your true self, you're able to see your future self and do what that person does now. You don't have to do it later. To race toward your future, it's much easier to create and measure the habits that bring you closer to being that person that you want to be. Everyone struggles with improving themselves and being who they want to be. But it doesn't have to be profound or difficult. Make it simple. The habitually inspired habit tracker that we created, which you may have, which you can download on our website, or we also share with you after the course, uh, was created as a simple way of tracking up to 10 daily habits. And in a second, I'm going to share with you mine and what I'm tracking right now. There's one there on the screen so you can see the format. In a minute, I'll show you what I'm tracking now. The chart's broken out by week. You can just write the habits. Remember a few minutes ago, I said, what are 5 to 10 habits that get you to being that person you envision, to get you to achieve those big goals? So we're going to cover those in a minute. And we're going to cover the habits that help you practice regularly and improve, that will help you hit your own personal, professional, and spiritual goals. Those things that improve your mind, your body, and your spirit. So maybe you want to track progress on a work goal or a fitness goal. Like I said, I lost over 30 pounds just from tracking intermittent fasting. I wrote my book in 6 months by tracking the habit of writing every day from 5:30 a.m. to 7. For now, let's just focus on what you want to improve and start tracking it. Try to make those habits that'll help you achieve your big 3 goals. The habit tracker is a great way to do that on paper or even digitally. But remember though, if you're tracking this on a computer or the phone, do not use your phone or computer for the first hour you were awake, unless it's to turn off an alarm, play some positive music or content while working out. But you might switch back to checking emails or text or some of the bad habits that get you stuck and take you from who you're meant to be. Orienting your day properly is essential to living a life of joy. Do not check emails, text, social media, or communicate with anyone other than yourself for the first hour you're awake. I don't track it, but it's worth tracking if you find the phone to be an addiction that's taking you from setting your intention for the day. So I've been tracking my habits now, like I said, since 2019, over 5 years now. And we are what we repeatedly do. So it changes for me slightly. So I used to have meditate and journal from 5:37, but like I said, when I was writing my book, I did that as soon as I woke up to get into that flow state, and it helped me get that done in 6 months, and it helped me hit that goal. So here are the habits that I'm currently tracking each day. I'll share this with you, but by all means, this is just what I'm doing. It's not necessarily what you need to do. So let me open that and share on Zoom. All right, so here's what I'm tracking right now, and I do it on paper. That's why they're not checked here because I print it out. I just put the check boxes in the first couple days to give you an idea of how it looks if you want to do it in PDF or do it digitally. But here's what I'm tracking right now. Um, I'm tracking, sleep by 10, wake by 5, meditate, journal, 1 hour flow on my top priority, which I highly recommend. There's a book called by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. If you can do that, which means like eat the frog, eat the hardest thing first. Do the hardest thing first thing in the day, and that way everything else is downhill and you don't procrastinate. You do the biggest hardest thing first. So I like to get at least 1 hour flow, my top priority, done early in the day. Read a spiritual book, read the Tao Te Ching. I'm currently writing a book, like I said, called Lead with Spirit. So um, I'm working on sort of reading some different spiritual books, from the Bible to philosophy to Bhagavad Gita, so different spiritual traditions from around the world. 30 to 60 minutes quality content, whether it's a book or a video, exercise or yoga, and PM journal, meaning journal at night, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. So that's what I'm tracking right now. Like I said, you can do this is set for up to 12, but you score it each day. You can track your weekly score. But notice I have my yearly, quarterly, and monthly goals here. They all align. You set your yearly goals to match your big long term goals to align with those. Then you set your quarterly and your monthly goals to align with your yearly goal. So every month, every quarter, you're getting closer to that big long term goal. And then your daily habits help you get to these monthly and quarterly goals. So this is a way that ensures your success and makes it absolutely inevitable. So it's a method I use. I hope that that'll work for you. And now, I think, I want to share with you that it's not perfect. You know, I I do I get every single one of these habits every single day? Sadly, no. Life gets in the way. Like I first mentioned when we started, my wife ruptured her Achilles and is in a wheelchair in a cast right now. And we got 5 kids, and I'm shuttling everyone everywhere while also, running my clean energy business, doing courses, working on my book. So, I don't necessarily get to every one of these every day, but when I'm doing really well, I make time for these. Not, in a period like right now where I'm dealing with all these distractions, but I got up this morning and I worked on my book because it's one of my habits. And I get, my exercise and I read the books and I do those things because I do them like my life depended on it. You know why? Because my future self does depend on it. And I can't reach my goals if I'm not doing these habits. So I push more things away that don't help me get to these and distract me from my goals in doing these habits. And as I go along, I have more days at my best where I'm getting a 10, where I'm doing all those things, and I hit them all more often. And that which is being measured is actually improving. So, look, track what works for you. You don't have to do what I'm doing. Look at your goals that you're setting, your long term goals, your annual goals, and then see what you need to do daily, or even 3 times a week. There was a column in there at the beginning that says number of times per week. It doesn't have to be 7 days a week. A lot of mine are during the work week. Some of these, I do end up doing, 3 days a week. It just depends what works for you. But look at your goals you're setting, see what you need to do to hit those goals, and then make those areas your daily habits. What does the person you dream of being do each day? You journaled about the visioning that person 10 years from now. What does your future self do each day that you aren't doing now? You want to do those things. Pick those things and be that person by practicing each day, and you'll quickly become that person. My life is improving each day because I'm tracking that which matters most to me. Even though it's become habitual, I still track it to see that I'm doing and to hold myself accountable by tracking it. So I told you about writing that letter to my future self. That's a great way to go. I started becoming that person. Now, did I reach him fully? No, not yet. But my vision for my future self continues to grow and new habits continue to emerge as I evolve. So, who do you want to become? And then, are you fired up to become that person? Jim Rohn said, motivation is what gets you started. Habit is what keeps you going. So we're going to talk in a minute about how these habits keep you going even when you feel like you've been knocked off. We're here to thrive this year, to set big goals, but this year we're going to accomplish these goals. We're going to be in that 2.7% of people that actually accomplish their goals because we're going to put habits in place that make achieving those goals inevitable. So let's work a little bit on setting some of these habits. So uh, let's put journal prompt up there, which again, these slides will be made available. The journal prompts will be there. What are 5 to 10 habits that will help you become your future self in 3 years? Just jot down. Maybe you can include them here in the chat if you want, or you can raise your hand to get some feedback. But just take like 3-4 minutes and write down what are 5 to 10 habits that help you become your future self, that person you envision 3 years from now or 10 years from now. We're just going to take a few minutes to do that. Jot those down in your journal. All right, just take another few seconds to work on that. And again, you want to do these after we are done today. This is not just, you set them on this course and then walk away. These are to work on and to help refine and start setting up in the habit tracker that we're going to share with you. But you do want to make sure, like it says there, that these habits are aligned with your 3 big goals. So, you can go back, envision your true self, meeting your future self. What does that person do? And then set 3 big goals to become that person. And then what are 5 to 10 habits that will help you become that person? All right, let's go ahead and you can keep working on this afterwards, but we're gonna go ahead and move on and talk now about overcoming setbacks and building resilience so that we can realize this long-term commitment, but also recognize when things knock us off. So I want to give you a couple of examples of getting knocked off, but yet why it's so important to take that risk. And when you set aligned goals and build the habits to match, you're not just chasing results, you're becoming someone new. And when you become someone new, you become confident and you can take risks. And so, as I was tracking my habits and thinking, I've set these big goals, I want to do more, I then decided that I wanted to accomplish more. And so, I hadn't done anything to improve or change my business in 15 years and it had been static. So, we set out to start a new company, OhmGrid, that I mentioned, to take people off grid. We hired a bunch of people. We started spending a bunch of money on marketing. We did this big investor presentation. And ultimately, we planned a big launch party to garner investor interest. And our launch landed with a thud. And, my accountant told us we were hemorrhaging money. We wouldn't make it much longer. And I guess we had the launch in April. By October, so 6 months later, I had to let go all these people who I loved working with and who were amazing people. And it was incredibly challenging and a hard time. But it was through those mistakes I made. And I said those goals weren't aligned with my true self. So now I recognize I'm not surprised that it didn't succeed. But when you take a risk, you listen to your inner voice and you pursue a path. So it's not about whether you get to the end goal. There will always be twists and turns. And it's not about the destination, but about who you become in the process of becoming your true self. So when you set big, audacious goals, even if you fall short, you're much further ahead than you were if you hadn't tried before. Tracking your habits is not a test. You're not competing against anyone else. You're not even competing against yourself. You're just keeping track to help you improve. Don't beat yourself up if you don't do a great job one week. Some weeks won't be as strong as others. Yet, if you want to live in bliss, then keep tracking and keep improving. 3 weeks ago, I had one of the best weeks I've ever had in tracking my habits over 5 years, almost a perfect score. I felt great and was focused, living inspired and on point. But then I mentioned my wife ruptured her Achilles and had surgery. And my son had eighth grade graduation and the kids had half days the last week. And I was the only one then, packing lunches and taking my kids to school and shuttling my wife to doctor's appointments. She can't drive, she's in a cast and can't, help out at home. And I'm pulling out my hair, helping, five kids, finish out school, start day camps, etc., and head into the summer. And I was way off my routines. And, I didn't hit all those habits. But you know what? By this week, as things started to stabilize a little bit, and I got all the kids on routine and the day camps, and my wife, starting to heal, I got back to my routine. And I still am getting back to my routine. And I did those habits that helped me get back to a state of balance and bliss. You aren't always going to feel that balance. Either busy life takes you from your healthy habits like sleep, meditation, journaling, and exercise, or something happens like an injury or a sickness or something that gets in your mind. The negative recurring thoughts that take over again that you can't achieve this or it's too hard, but you can. It's not always perfect, but the more you work at it, the more you trust your future self as your guide, the more you stick to your healthy habits and come back to your true self. No matter how busy you are and how much negativity impacts your life, you're never too busy or too distracted to take just 2 seconds to look yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. You're never too tired to put your hand on your heart as you fall asleep and say, I love you as you drift off to sleep. You got to keep going, even when you don't feel it. In fact, when you don't feel like sticking with your habits is the perfect time to reset. When your computer isn't working right, when you get that dreaded wheel, colored wheel spinning, the wheel of death that your computer's not going to start again. When nothing's working, you press Control, Alt, Delete, or you hold down the power button and you force a restart. When things aren't going well in life and you're off your game, reboot yourself. Go back, look at your habit tracker, see what's not working, see what is working, reboot yourself. This brings you back to your true self. You look at those big goals and you say, I can do this. I'm going to refocus and make these goals for this month again. It brings you back to accelerating towards your big goals, your big long-term goals. You can course correct. That's why if you set big goals, you don't fall short. You can change course to get there. You know that you just need to refine a little bit. So once you head down this path and see the light it brings you, you can't unsee it. You can't unsee the light in the mirror and all around you. Even when you've had bad days, those days get shorter and less frequent. You can change the trajectory more quickly. Your habits keep you going and help you get back to who you're meant to be. When a challenge, a tragedy, or even just a bad day knocks you off track, get back to tracking your habits and find the alignment with yourself again. Now, as we start heading to close, and I realize we're going to be a couple minutes over time. We try to stick to an hour and a half, but we give ourselves 2 hours. But there's plenty of time for Q&A or feedback if you do want to share on setting goals and aligning them with your habits or aligning your habits with your goals. But we want to work on activating this identity shift to being your true self. So uh, let's just go to we're going to do a couple journal prompts and then actually we'll just do one journal prompt and then proceed to close here. And that is, pull out your journal again. And what's one insight from today that you're taking with you to start living as your true self? What's one insight that you've learned today that you can take with you to start living as your true self? And feel free to, again, raise your hand or put it in the chat. And this is just a quick one. Just jot down, take 30 seconds or so, jot down what's one insight from today that you're taking with you to start living as your true self. Yep. Thanks, Marianne. Yep. That you'll be healthy again. Yeah. And, healthy can mean lots of different things, physically, emotionally, mentally. Um, you know, so much of it is related. I started realizing as I was working on my habits that, working on my mind through meditating and journaling, that then led to, working on my physical health and losing weight. It then led to being more present, with my kids. I would start the habit um, of leaving my phone on the charger when I was done with work so that I could be fully present with my kids and not looking at my phone. Um, so many of the habits, I mean, they're just already, once you start being healthy again, start tracking those habits, it's like a domino effect. So many things in our personal, professional, and spiritual life begin to improve once we start just, one or two habits that may not even be related. Um, yeah, thank you. Sorry, what's that? Ornetta? Um, I might have missed a lot of the call, but changing my mindful habits will allow me to be more connected with myself spiritually and physically. Yeah, I mean, like I just said, I think that resonates as well. Once I started my sorry, my mindfulness practice, or meditating daily, that led to a substantial transformation in my life. And it's those habits, that you're tracking. Like I said, meditation is the first thing I track after I wake up. And that really helped me implement so much more in my life. Um, Dawn, yeah, keeping a habit journal to see what I am doing well and what I need and where I need improvement. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you took that way. Um, Getting all this stuff, excuse me, out of our head and down on paper is so important. That's why we created the habitually inspired habit tracker so that people have that, can track their habits. But keeping a journal is so important. I actually have two different journals. I have one where I journal my big three priorities for each day, my wins for the day. You want to celebrate your wins for each day, as well as how I want to show up the next day. But then I also have this journal I use, where I write down, what I saw or what I thought or what I need to act on from my meditation. Usually, what I envisioned or how I was able to clear my mind during a meditation as well. So yeah, that's a great thing to take with you. Anyone else want to share anything else they took away from today? All right, we're going to proceed to close here. And I guess one other part, we're not going to make it a journal prompt, but as a follow up to this, think about, what's one small action that you'll take in the next 24 hours to move towards your future self. So you can answer it here. I'm going to keep going, but by all means, think about some action you can take in the next 24 hours, like tracking your habits, maybe doing a further meditation on envisioning your future self, writing your big goals, or implementing your habits. So, uh, There's a great quote as we start moving towards closing by Rabindranath Tagore that says, "You can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water." So now it's time to put these into action. It's time to put your spacesuit on and climb into the shuttle and the launch pad to skyrocket into space. Staring at the stars is inspiring, but it won't get you to space. It won't get you to be an astronaut. It's time to launch. A lot of preparation goes into launching a spaceship to blast off into the celestial hemisphere. The voyage only begins, though, with the decision to climb aboard and fly through the atmosphere that stands between you and your destination. It's painful not being who you know you're meant to be. It's painful wishing you could be that person you see in your mind and seem like it's either impossible or it's taking forever to get there. And I know, I've been there. But it doesn't have to be painful. These are choices. This is your life to choose. Some of these are tough choices. You can either continue to go through the motions or live the life you're meant to live. You can stay in the harbor, or you can stare at the sea, or you can cross the ocean. You can stare at the stars, or you can launch yourself into space. You can stay in that same painful job or create the career you want. You can stare at the phone, or you can play with your kids. You can stay up late watching TV, or you can get up early and meditate. You can be busy. You can busy yourself on social media or email, or you can make real progress on your big goal. You can be miserable in that relationship that you've outgrown, or you can find true love with that person that brings out the best in you. You can sing the song you're meant to sing, or you can keep it bottled inside. These are all choices. Some of them are tough choices, but they're all yours and yours alone to make. Jen Sincero, in her book, You're a Badass, beautifully describes why you must blossom into who you're meant to be with this famous quote. "And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom." Your life is created by you, and we all create our own reality by our mindset and by the choices we make. You can choose to live a life of happiness and bliss by deciding to do so. But staying tight in a bud is far more painful than the risk it'll take you to blossom. At any stage in life, this holds true. It's never too late to be who you're meant to be. Be honest with yourself. Are you living the life you're meant to be? Are you achieving the one thing that inspires you the most? If not, it's time to blossom. It's time to live life inspired. Remember the Mandela quote from earlier in this workshop. There's no passion in playing small, in settling for a life that is less than the one you're capable of living. You're capable of living an extraordinary life. Make it big. Do not play small. Do not settle. You know what you're capable of. You just need to get it out of your head, down on paper, and then take action every morning to get you closer to who you're capable of being. But it can't be small. You won't take any action if you have a small goal because it doesn't matter that much. It's okay if you skip it or don't get there because it's not inspiring you to get there. Most people spend their days accomplishing small tasks and going through a bunch of little actions instead of taking big action for significant blocks of time to get to seemingly impossible goals. That's that 1 hour flow on your top priority. Just schedule it every day. Block an hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Just get the big blocks accomplished to get you to your goal. The digital world and fast-paced modern life have trained us to feel busy, but not very productive. All the busyness keeps us from designing a bold vision for our lives and then planning out the journey and the small habits that get us there. As Les Brown put it, most people fail in life not because they aim too high and miss, but because they aim too low and hit. Do not aim for low targets by accomplishing menial tasks every day. Aim high. You're meant to live an extraordinary life. So you can make excuses or you can awake with intention. You can look in the mirror and say, I love you, and then implement the steps prescribed today to return to your natural state and be the person that you are meant to be. Do not wait until that still small voice inside you is suppressed to a faint whisper. You know what to do. If you pause and listen, to truly listen, you'll hear your higher power and your inner voice calling you to be a force for great good in this world that you know you're meant to be. Listen to it, write it down, and then every day do what's necessary to get you closer to your big, brilliant light that you know you're meant to be. See the light in the mirror each day and then watch it glow and grow. If you set a big goal, you're going to be excited to take the first step and the next step and to keep on stepping until you're running into your future. As you can tell, I like quotes a lot. And here's another great quote, which is the conclusion to Tom Peters' book, The Excellence Dividend. And he's a management guru, but his last quote is not by a famous CEO or author, but by a pro motorcycle racer named Bill McKenna, who said, "Life is not a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in one pretty and well-preserved piece, but to slide across the finish line, broadside, thoroughly used up, worn out, leaking oil, and shouting, 'Geronimo!'" At my company, at Blue Sky Power, we recited that quote, Geronimo, over and over again when we read it, because it was about living life out loud. Life is to be enjoyed with enthusiasm. Life is to be shared and spread far and wide. The journey isn't always smooth, and roadblocks always pop up unexpectedly. But the tools provided today help make the journey smoother and get you around the roadblocks faster. Those that love you will be there with you. I love you, and I'll be there with you on this journey. I'm always happy to help guide you up the mountain as you climb to meet your future self. So as your feet hit the floor tomorrow morning, shout, "Geronimo!" or simply just say to yourself, "It's going to be an amazing day." I do this every morning. I say to myself, "It's going to be an amazing day." Even if I don't say it as soon as my feet hit the floor, at least on the walk into the bathroom, I've said it's going to be an amazing day. And then look in front of that mirror, step in front of the mirror, lock eyes with yourself and say, "I love you." And then go spread that light out into the world. The world needs your light to shine brightly now more than ever. These are challenging times for many people. And as you awake with intention, with your goals set and your habits aligned, put down the phone, turn off the negative news, and just listen to that still small voice inside you. Listen to yourself and your higher power, and then write down what you hear and turn what you wrote down into your journal. Turn what you wrote down into action that you can take today to be the person you are meant to be and to live your life of love, happiness, and bliss. I want to thank you so much for joining. If this workshop woke something up in you, know that we've created the Thrive in 25 course to help you keep that energy alive. It's an 8-week course designed to be a deep reset to your purpose, your identity recalibration, and personal expansion. So if you're curious or even just intrigued, you can reach out to us. We will send you some more information. And you can also go to our website and you'll know if it's for you because you've already met that version of you that lives on the other side of this. So you don't have to wait until you do the workshop. We're going to make these resources available to you now. So you can start your habits with the habitually inspired habit tracker. And we want you to be able to enjoy using that and let us know if you need any help with that at all. So, thank you so much for joining today. Please know that all the resources are going to be made available to you, including the habit tracker, the Epic Daily Routine Checklist. I'm glad Chad put this on there. That reminded me. That's a great resource that we have available for you. And just thank you all so much for joining and, talking to your true self, getting your goals set, working on your habits. And remember, I love you and your true self. And I'm happy to stay here for any questions. I can review some of the comments here that came in, but by all means, if you want to stay for question and answer or getting some feedback on goal setting, feel free to, come off camera or raise your hand and ask any questions you want to. And just Marianne, admitting that I'm on a spiritual journey that has been a major stumbling block, and your Zoom has been a positive reinforcement. Oh, thank you, Marianne. That's very sweet. That I don't need to be embarrassed or worry about what. No, you do not need to be embarrassed or worry about what others think. That's totally irrelevant. You stay focused on your goal, and you will get there. And even if you set a goal that seems outrageous to everyone, or you think people or even your family would make fun of you for saying that, don't worry about it. No goal is anything short of yours. It's yours to own and yours to achieve. So don't worry about what others think. It is your goal. You need to shut out all distractions and go straight for your goal. Um, let's see. Arnett, set a bedtime that will allow me to wake up by 5:30 to pray, meditate, and do breath work. Absolutely, Arnett. That's so important and absolutely essential. In fact, I talk a lot about sleep in my book as well as in the Thrive in 25 course that we have another one starting, I believe, in August that we'll provide you the information on. But in the Thrive in 25 course, I talk about sleep. And I used to not be a morning person at all. In fact, I was the opposite. I would stay up very late, whether it was working or watching TV or shows or just I couldn't shut down. And I had to retrain myself. What I did was I realized I wasn't working out or exercising. And with, kids and work, the only time I could find to work out was at 4:30 or 5 in the morning. So I trained myself later in life to become a morning person, even though I was the opposite of a morning person. I mean, I've seen a lot of sunrises in my life, and not because I woke up early, but because I was up still from the night before. Um, so I trained myself to, start waking up early. Now I see the sunrise because I got to bed and woke up early. Usually most people need about 7 hours is what the research shows. I talk about in my book. If you can get to bed by 10:30 so you can wake up at 5:30, that would be great. And very inspirational. Thank you, Dawn. That's very kind of you. Anyone else have any additional questions they want to ask or any feedback on their goals or share anything else? Open forum. I used to say, go to sleep the same day you woke up. Yeah, that's not good if you're staying up after midnight. Yeah, that's you're going to sleep the same day you woke up. Yeah, I've been trying to avoid that as much as possible for years now, and it's been transformational. All right, any other feedback or questions or anything anyone wants to put in the chat? All right. Well, listen, I really appreciate everyone joining today. We will provide those resources to you. Keep an eye out for those probably sometime uh, tomorrow, and you'll be able to replay the course if you want. Use the habit tracker, the habitually inspired habit tracker, and you'll also have our new resource we created, which is the high performers daily checklist. So keep an eye out for those. Thank you so much for joining. Feel free to join a future course and we will see you around. Let us know if we can be of assistance. Looking for the course in August and using a tracker. Yeah, thank you so much. Look forward to having you join us, Arnett. We'll provide you the information, Arnetta. Thank you. Thank you, Marianne. All right. Have a great day, everyone. Appreciate it. Be well.